So many emotions flying around when I saw this Dan Hooker thing last week. I was going to do a video on it back then, but I was up the walls busy in work. And now I see it's trending a little bit on Twitter, and it's on UFC breaking news that Dan Hooker says that he'd slap the shit out of Colby, and Colby's a rat and all this type of shit. We're going to get into exactly what I think about that. Before we do, if you could subscribe, that would be amazing. That would really help me out. Getting some really cool views on the videos. So it looks like people are either really enjoying it or they're just watching it to hate and talk shit. But it doesn't matter, because if you could subscribe, that'd be great. And you can hate me as much as you want then after that. Yeah, I don't know how to react to this, because Dan Hooker I've always liked. I've actually always liked him. And I pulled up his record and I watched some of his highlights. And he's had some really good wins and really good battles in the octagon. And as of recent, it's been a little bit embarrassing, to be honest with you. It's kind of the same situation where we find ourselves with the likes of Tony Ferguson, where you're kind of going, oh man, will you please just stop? Like, just stop, man. You know? And I saw this interview last week with Volkanovski, who I do like, who is a really good fighter. And again, this is derogatory speech towards Colby Chaos Covington, who I am a massive fan of, just because of the style, just because of the grappling powerhouse cardio style. And obviously I kind of like what he talks about, and I find it really entertaining as well. And I find it embarrassing that Dan Hooker or Volkanovski or Jorge Masvidal or any of these other guys are saying that they'd slap the shit out of Colby. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't slap the shit out of anybody, because Colby would beat Dan Hooker, Volkanovski, and Masvidal probably in the same night. You know what I mean? If you disagree, drop a comment. So let's have a listen and see what Dan Hooker says.
Fuck off. He's a fucking idiot, bro.
He is an idiot.
A fucking idiot. And they fucking hide him. Like, the UFC hide the shit out of him, bro.
Well, they need to, right?
They need to.
Yeah,
they would slap the shit out of him. Like, he can't even train at, like, the PI. So...
You know what? I think there's actually a little mix-up of words. I think he said they would slap the shit out of him. Or maybe it was I'd slap the shit out of him. But who is they, and what the fuck would you do, Dan Hooker? Like, honestly, what would you do? And the comments reflect that. You go through the Twitter comments on some of these posts, and everyone's just like laughing. They're like, Dan Hooker? You'd slap the shit out of Colby? You calling him a rat? The fuck, man? Let's have a look at Dan Hooker's... Oh, look, here's another story from Dan Hooker that I saw the other day. Dan Hooker responds to MMA fans suggesting that his time has passed. Wait for it, this is in quotes now, this is important because it does make a lot of sense. These are the kind of blokes whose shoelaces come untied and they throw their shoes in the rubbish bin. So we know that Dan Hooker has taken a serious amount of damage in his last 3 or 4 fights. Absolutely smashed. Chandler busted his jaw. Arnold Allen broke him in half. So fucking hell. Hold on, let's actually have a look at his stats. But that doesn't make sense, man. That's a worrying quote, to be honest with you. You know, maybe there's a little bit of damage there. You wouldn't know. So his record, right? Arnold broke him up. Islam Makhachev, that was an easy one. Armbar, my 6-year-old would do on a Saturday morning at jiu-jitsu class. Michael Chandler broke him up. Dustin Poirier broke him up. He beat Paul Felder, he beat Ali Quint, and he beat James Vick. 3 good wins. And that Paul Felder fight was fucking unbelievable. Edson Barboza broke him. He knocked out Gilbert Burns. I went back and I watched a replay of that the other day. He caught him with a left hook. It's kind of interesting when you look at the disparity in weights, where you have Gilbert up at 170, absolutely smashing Khamzat Chimaev, and then dropping down to maybe 145, 155 and getting smashed by Dan Hooker. So if I was to do my low IQ MMA casual maths, wouldn't that mean that Dan Hooker would beat Khamzat Chimaev? Anyway, so look, his record is good. And I've always liked him. I thought he was a good guy. You know what I mean? I actually thought he was a good guy. Let's just have a little pop off it.
They chuck him across the road. There's like 2 ones. The Apex is like in Vegas. PI's on one side of the road, and everyone like trains there. And then the Apex is on the other side of the road. Like, he comes in at night, and the Apex like goes in the back door to the Apex. Like, he's a little rat, bro. Like, that's pussy shit.
Yeah.
He's a little rat. Okay. I would like to see the confrontation between Colby and Dan Hooker. One-on-one, no one around. Let's see what happens. Because I would imagine, with my high level casual IQ that Colby would take his legs and smash him down onto the ground and wouldn't let him get back up. And that would be, in reality, a beatdown. And I think he'd do the same to Volkanovski. He did the same to Masvidal. Masvidal sucker punched him, couldn't knock him over, put a little scrape on his face. It is what it is. But I find it interesting, and I said this in another video, that as much as all these people hate Colby and they hate his character and he's a rat and he's this and he's that, they all love to speak about him. And that just plays into what Colby always says, because Colby is like, I'm one of the biggest fighters in the UFC and these guys want to put my name in their mouths because their careers are shit. And if we look at the two boys that are talking here, Dan Hooker, irrelevant. He's on a 3-loss streak right now, getting smashed by guys like Arnold Allen. Okay, you look at Volkanovski, top of his game, looked really good against Max Holloway, but the personality doesn't seem to be there. So if you really think about it, the two lads that are putting Colby's name in their mouth are two nothing burgers. One's a has-been and the other is just a meh. So I guess it works if you talk about Colby, because now all of a sudden Dan Hooker is in the headlines again. You know, he's got an upcoming fight that could go anyway with Dan Hooker, but he's in the headlines now. People are writing about him, people are tweeting about it, and it keeps him relevant to talk about Colby Covington. And he continues on here, like,
he doesn't stay at like the host hotel. Like, he actually goes out of his way to just avoid people.
Yeah,
like, it's the weirdest thing. He's such
if you're gonna
he goes out of his way to avoid people. It's the weirdest thing. You know what? Not everybody wants to be around people. A lot more fucking fighters would benefit if they snuck in like a rat backstage and started working out and got the job done, instead of being front and center of the cameras and talking shit all the time like we saw last weekend and totally disrupted a whole card. I don't know, man.
Gonna play that, own it, right?
You have
own
to,
it.
like, you have
own
to.
it, and like,
guys,
you know
like, a lot of guys
don't cry about it, because I've heard him cry about, oh, I got to do this, I got to get security guards and all that. I was like, oh, fucking don't play that game then. Like, what do you want us to do?
Yeah, like, at some stage you got to bring like
disrespect
a little bit.
People. You know, sometimes people are going to want to get you back for it.
Oh, a lot.
Get him back in the ring. Get him back in the ring. Own it in the fucking ring. Yeah, you're going to say that, you got to own it. Okay, I'm going to talk shit about another fighter on the UFC roster, and hopefully we will get a fight. It'll be a big fight. We'll get pay-per-view points. We'll get money off of it. And when we're in there, I will back it up in the ring. Has Colby Covington done that over and over again? Yes, he has. Over and over and over again. You know, 2 massive fights with Kamaru Usman. Lost the first one. Second one, that's kind of up in the air. A lot of people think that Colby won that one, last 3 rounds and all that sort of shit. Masvidal talked a world of shit. Never mentioned kids. Never mentioned family. Just mentioned the fact that Masvidal was a terrible fighter, which he proved by going out, getting arrested and acting the bollocks like that. And people just misconstrued the whole thing, turned it on Colby. What happened when they got in the ring? He absolutely backed it up and he owned it. He fucking owned it and mauled him so much that Masvidal cried. He cried. He left the arena bawling, crying. So is that not owning it? I don't know what the fuck these guys, like, there's 2 worlds, right? So we know that the UFC fighters are fighters. We know that. You know you're going to fight when you get out in the street. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's do it. Let's put aside professionalism for a minute. Let's get out in the street and fight. Be real men. You know, because you don't talk about me because I'm going to come up. Not like there's been fucking 100 years of boxing promotion and combat sports promotion where people talk shit. They get in the ring, they make all this money, and then they shake hands. People are saying, okay, that's fake. Okay, so 95% of combat athletes are fake, if that's the way we're doing it. Because we've seen Deontay Wilder, we've seen Tyson Fury talk shit, and after a fucking 15-round battle, they shake hands. You know, we've seen UFC fighters do it. Conor McGregor, the best example of it. Conor McGregor talked shit with Nate Diaz. The 2 of them beat fucking bottles of water off each other. The 2 of them almost came to blows numerous times in the run-up to that fight. When Conor McGregor was smashed by Nate Diaz, he got up and shook hands. He got up and shook hands and showed respect. He did it twice. He did it twice. At the end of their second battle, the 2 of them embraced each other and lifted each other up off the ground. So if you're one of the guys like Volkanovski or Masvidal who are really butthurt by Colby, your rhetoric is to push the idea that, well, you shouldn't really do that. You should keep that same energy. It's like, get fucked, man. There's too much of a nuance there. And you know what? You're just upset by his opinions. You're just upset by his opinions. You're not upset by the shit talk because he backs it up, and you know that he backs it up because I've heard Volkanovski say it. I'd love to see his face get smashed. I'd love to see him get a flying knee and get knocked out. But you know what? That might never happen. You know what? That might never happen. And you covered yourself well there. That might never happen because when he gets into the octagon, he backs it up. And let's see what he does going forward. If it's Colby Chaos Covington versus Khamzat Chimaev, is he going to back it up? We will see. But one thing is for sure. Dan Hooker, you're going to do shit. You're going to slap the shit out of nobody. Absolutely nobody. And Volkanovski, you keep talking your shit because you're just a nothing burger, man. So watching this little exchange between these two guys, absolutely pathetic. Go and back it up, you. Keep the same energy. Let's see Dan Hooker or Volkanovski walk up face to face and talk that shit. Because they don't. They don't, because it's just bullshit. They're using his name for clout. That's it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a comment and don't forget to subscribe. That would really help me out. Appreciate it.